Thailand wants to reopen its borders within 120 days. Fully vaccinated travellers won't have to quarantine. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha has announced the goal in a national address. Saksit Sayasombat joins us for more on this story. Saksit, authorities must be confident the outbreak is under control then.
That is at least what Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha said in his televised address this evening. He said that it has returned to a consolidated management of the COVID-19 crisis, but the numbers they paint a different picture. We still have thousands of cases a day and dozens of deaths, something unthinkable just a year ago when Thailand was lauded to be able to contain the spread of the virus. But at least also for now, it also has to be said there are at least more people being discharged and there are no new infections. Nevertheless, Prayut has now set the goal to reopen the country in 120 days, that is roughly by October. And he has also said that with that, people that are arriving in Thailand, whether it's Thais or foreign tourists, if they are fully vaccinated, they don't have to quarantine themselves. Businesses should be able to run normally without any blanket restrictions. So basically, we are slowly going back to normal or back to that new normal. That is the goal here. Obviously, that also has to do whether or not the vaccination drive, the mass vaccination drive of 50 million people by the end of the year is working. And of course, the motivation here is that, as he said it himself, to reduce the enormous suffering of the people because of the economic hardships, of the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic, especially in the tourism sector. So that is the main motivation why he wants to reopen the country within 120 days.
And actually, the government is also focusing on local vaccine production.
Indeed, Thailand already is producing its own AstraZeneca vaccines. That is basically the foundation of the vaccination drive here in Thailand, 61 million doses to be precise. But the vaccination drive currently still has some problems, even though it has launched last week with the goal to vaccinate 50 million people by the end of the year. There have been many suspensions, especially here in the capital of Bangkok. 300,000 people have been affected by postponements because of supply problems by said company here in Thailand, AstraZeneca. And that company is called Siam Bioscience, which is owned by the king. And that makes it difficult because of the less majestic laws to have some critical inquiries. But nevertheless, the long-term goal is to establish Thailand as a vaccination production hub, not only to produce its own vaccines, booster vaccines, for the foreseeable future, as Prayut himself said, that we are still going to be living with this virus for quite some time, but also the motivation here is also to send those vaccines elsewhere in the region. But again, that company that I just mentioned was also going to supply to other countries, but the countries like Malaysia, countries like Philippines, territories like Taiwan, they have also reported some delays because of this Thai production plant here. But if it works, it might be a very good goal. Nevertheless, there are less than 200 days to go to reach these 50 million people to be vaccinated. And now there's another countdown to reopen the country by 120 days.
Yeah, thanks for keeping an eye on it for us. Saksit Sayasombat in Bangkok.